All right, so hopefully that is good. Let's give it a minute or two. Let some people flow in here, if they're even up. Sorry for the insanely late stream. All right, there we go. We got a couple people watching. Okay. We'll put that up there. And all right. Give it a couple minutes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the insanely late stream, or for some of you people who are probably on the other side of the world, good morning. What's up, Micro Viking? I meant to do this like 4 hours earlier. Blame TikTok for leading me down a rabbit hole. 9 a.m. So it should be around the same time in UK then, Andrew. Like 8 or 9, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 10, even. Valheim. Don't know if I've seen that one yet. 8 a.m. Gotcha. So today we're going to be checking out the Kingroon KP6, which is basically Kingroon's resin printer. So if anybody knows anybody in the resin printing world, this is basically a reiteration of the Calent D60 and also known as the Elegoo Mars 3. And there was another printer out on the market that was taking this same one, and I forgot what it was. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, basically this is a Calent variant, and let's get into opening this. Take a look. I don't know where my knife is. It is MIA right now. So we're just going to have to use our trusty scraper, which will work just fine. Sort of a Viking-themed Minecraft. Oh, that sounds interesting. All right. Let's take a look and see what we got. So we do have a pretty fat booklet with a lot of information about the printer itself and Shitu box and the settings and all of the stuff that comes with it. Now, this is a smaller resin printer. Oh, did I open it up? No, I didn't open it up upside down. How is this packed? This is very strange. It's packed. Wonder if they packed this upside down accidentally. Because I opened it right. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. You know. That's pretty much it, ladies and gents. Everything's inside. All right, let's get this up out of the way. Looks like I need to do another cleaning. Hopefully you guys can hear me pretty well. I think you can. I'm using a new lapel or lavalier microphone. All right, so first things first. let's see. We have some nicely packaged. I think it's just one strainer. I guess that'll get you through your first one. Usually they send out a couple of them, but I guess not this time. Well, not the end of the world. This has got to be the build plate and other stuff. So we have our build plates. We have some supplies, power cord. Everything is packaged in there. It's all gone. Jerry, whoa, you're up. Well, I guess you're not up yet late. It's 12 o'clock by you, which, I mean, I guess that's kind of late for some people. But it is kind of a weekend, so. All right, so right away I can see that it's got a different style lead screw. This is a beefier lead screw than you would normally see on smaller printers. I wish I had one here that I can kind of show you, but the threads are cut heavier on this. So, and again, you know, it's basically it's an Elegoo Mars printer just rebranded. That's exactly what this is. It's rebranded from Calent, and yeah. Basically, the big difference between this and a Mars 3 is this has a 2K screen, the Mars has a 4K screen. So, but essentially everything should be very close to each other. So, we do have dual fans on the back, our power on off switch. Our dimensions are 82 by 129 by 180, so it is kind of a taller machine. That's why it's got the goofy hood on it. Let's go ahead and unbox some of this. We have a 12-volt, 5-amp power supply. And we're going to have to unplug this so I can get that hooked up. Ah, you're in bed. Gotcha. We have our bed, which is nicely packaged in a Kingroon little bag. This is actually a nice bag. It's a zip bag. Nice shiny build plate there. Then we have a bag with our screws, or our Allen wrenches, probably some really, really tiny gloves that won't fit my hand. Let's see what else we got here. That's garbage. We have a, I'm dropping things. An aluminum, anodized aluminum Kingroon stamped connector for the build plate, our red USB drive, and then our little plastic spatula, which I will probably not use. Hopefully there's a test file on here that we can test out and see. Doubt it's leveled out of the factory, but let's see if it says anything about that. 3.5-inch touchscreen, printing platform, home. So it does say technically to level the printer, but I don't know if we'll do that. Maybe we will just for the heck of it. Just because we can. But we do need to turn it on and raise the Z-axis. Okay, sheet 2 board on it, obviously. So let's just go through here. We have our exposure, clean, manual, set Z. Okay, so this is all normal Shitu box stuff. We're going to go in and turn off of the turn off the sound so it's not super loud. We're going to go to Tools, manually raise the Z. This is very quiet. And very smooth. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and unscrew this and remove the covers on our vat and our screen. So it does have protective covers on it. This is a plastic vat, which at least I think that's plastic. Yeah, it's like a harder type plastic. That is a big screen. Wonder if that's like a 6-inch screen. All right, we're going to go ahead and put that in there. Okay. Oh, you know what? I didn't want to do that. I need to level it. I should have grabbed some paper. That's fine. Let's go ahead and get this all set up. I think I got an extra one over here. Oh, too small. Wah, 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 wah. But that one works. And that one's stripped because it's garbage. All right, so choose, nope. I have chosen poorly. We're just going to loosen all 4 of the screws for the bed. And it looks like they do have lock washers on it too, so that's good. That'll help keep the level on that for a long time. Okay. There we go. Now I just need to find a sheet of paper or something I can use. There we go. That'll do, pig. Because it's just a protector for the screen. You don't need it on there. I don't ever keep them on there. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So we are now good. Just FYI, if you can read that, it says, please tear off the protective film before use. So while it's a protector, it's not. Yeah, I don't know. I did it. We're good now. All right. It's nice that it's got a little stopper on it. So I figured, let's try out some rigid resin. I hate these. This is gonna rip up my hand. Yeah, I'm actually working with someone who makes the protective film covers for resin printers. So I actually have I have a brand new cover that I need to test out on a couple of these machines. So get some nice fancy white in here. Now, I will say that one downfall of this machine, there's no fill line. So we're going to do it the old school way. We're going to let it go down, and then we're going to fill it to where we need to. I also went out and I bought a new camera too. So I got to set that up all tomorrow and get that situated. I got that lens, which is a macro lens that'll shoot a lot of this stuff very nicely. And then I have a ridiculous lens that I can shoot from super far away. So I can place the camera literally anywhere and it'll pick up whatever I need. But yeah, let's put this all together. That's pretty much it. Got a nice little logo on the top there. And that's all. That's all. Oops. That's really quiet. So there you go. An Elegoo Mars 3. Yeah, USB drive is in the same location, everything. Didn't really change much on this. All right, so let's see if there's anything on the prints here. I doubt it. Yeah, I didn't think so. All right, let's take this out. Let's plug that bad boy in and see what we got on here. Wonder if we need to slice it or it's okay. So let's do a share screen. All right. So we have a user manual, test slicers. We don't really need any of that. There's our test files. Let's check in our test folder. And CTB, okay. Let's see what this says. Oh, that's funny. That's very, very funny. Because this is the Calent S400. And this is the test print that's on the Calent S400. Is these bird cages, which is kind of a cool print anyway. But yeah, that just kind of 100% confirms that, that's a Calent printer. So let's go ahead and move this to here. We'll let that write. Okay. Yeah, that's literally the same exact test print. Pretty sure this is the same one. Yeah. Okay. We have a 3D object. So I guess you can cut it up if you really want to. All right. So that's good for that. Let's go ahead and get our test print going. And away we go. Let's see how long it estimates this print. I'm guessing it's bird cages, let's say 2 hours. An hour and 13 minutes. So obviously we're not going to be on here for an hour and 13 minutes. I mean, I guess we could. That's kind of late, but we can see how it turns out. I can already hear it peeling from the FEP. All right, Jerry, thanks for stopping in. Have a good night, man. So it's only 534 layers, so that's not too bad. I probably should have took off the test, or not the test, the profile setups, and I should have set up the system in Shitu Box. All right, so yeah, so this is a 6-inch screen. It is 2K and monochrome, and the current price on Amazon US is $150 for this thing. That is really cheap, because it's got a better leveling system than the Voxelab Proxima. It's priced cheaper than the Voxelab Proxima. And if it prints good, this will be my new suggestion printer for newcomers on the scene. Because at a price like that, that's very hard to beat. The only oddball thing about it is that it's got a really weird printing volume. So let's see here. I don't think they've ever had a KP6 normal one, but okay. It does have a nice height to it, 180 millimeters, which that's a good size. Okay, that's just some exposure stuff, monochrome, blah, blah, blah. All right, so let's do a comparison of the Voxelab Proxima. What's up? and see what our prices are. So the Proxima is $159. So here, let's do some comparison tests. I'll share my screen with you guys here. Share screen 1. Okay. All right. So we're going to do a comparison between the Kingroon KP6 and the Voxel Lab Proxima. So very similar in price range. It's about a $10 difference, give or take. Obviously, that's not taxes included or anything. And God knows if this is just a sale price, because it looks like it's normally listed at 180, and this one's listed at 160. So 5.1, 3.2, and 6.1. 5.1, 3.2, and 7.1. So it's actually a higher printer. So it's essentially the same printer, just got a higher z-axis. That's it. And that's mainly in part due to obviously the higher z height, but also the print head here is much more compact on this model. Same 3.5-inch touchscreen, looks like 6.08 LCD screen. And yeah, they're pretty much the same exact printers. You know, the Voxel Lab looks a little better. And I know it's got a little nicer locking system for the VAT. But this has got the old school style where it's like the old Elegoo Mars, any cubic photon. So that's actually kind of nice. So you got the LDR and the LDH, both great printers. I've had both of them. You know, the LDH was a little more problematic at times, but I found out that it's just some resins it doesn't like some resins at times. So once I switched to a different resin, it printed fine. What I mean by it didn't like some resins, it left behind like extra film. That's really the best way to put it. It's basically an extra print that was literally a piece of film, and that happened all the time. But I found out that it was a combination of the resin and the exposure settings, because the resin was it was basically bad resin. So that's what was happening. So they have a bunch of stuff listed on here, and I really don't think that they need all this. Like all of this stuff that's on the front here, like this is exactly how the printer is. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. All this white stuff like wavelength photosensitive resin, the build volume, the screen, the z-axis, UV protective cover. They really don't need to put all this stuff on here. This is just kind of like a gimmicky type thing. Like it could be much, much better for what they like, the look of it, in my opinion. But you know, it's a printer, and when it comes down to it, it's gonna print. It's fine. Now this does have a active filtration system, which that's one of the things that the Proxima does not have. It does not have an active filtration system on this. So that's one of the big differences between it. Does it actually work? That's to be seen. Most of the time, these are just kind of gimmicky. Like they have carbon filters in them, but they don't truly filter the way that they're supposed to. So so I'm not really like holding my breath on it or anything like that. But let's just kind of look through here. So obviously it slices in Shitu box. Layer thickness is 0.01 to 0.2 millimeters. So basically it goes to like super fine detail to your FDM printing. So 30 to 50 millimeters an hour, that's pretty standard. Z-axis accuracy is 0.00125 millimeter. Again, that's kind of standard. X and Y resolution is 0.05 millimeter. That's, again, standard. Build volume, pretty similar to the Voxelab Proxima. Light source is 405 nm, so that's normal. Chinese and English languages. Package weight, power requirements, blah, blah, blah. That's pretty much all the same. Dual cooling fan, help you enjoy the same refreshing printing. Good enough to release the irritant odor. Okay, sure. Blocking 95% of UV. Well, I'll be honest, that's the first time I've ever seen anybody actually say, like, yeah, it blocks UV, but it only blocks 95% of it. That's amazing that they actually put that on there. KP6 mono is made of CNC machined aluminum, build stronger and reliable. Again, it's literally the Elegoo Mars 3. That's what this is. Quick FEP replacement. The design help customers to release the FEP films easily. Okay, we'll have to take a look at that. I don't know if I like the wording on that, but we'll see. Operating interface, that's normal Shitu box, and that's pretty much it. Let's see if anybody has any bad reviews about it. So no 0-star or low ratings. Looks like we got 30% 4 stars and 70% 5-star. But there's only 4 ratings, at least on this listing. Great resin. Yep, I will say if it prints the way that this does, then it'll definitely be a good starter printer for sure. Spectacular results on first try, new to resin printing, but what a start. Cool. All right, so we have some at least testimonials, and it's not just like BS testimonials, as they actually provide pictures of the prints that they did. So that's kind of nice. Yeah, literally one funnel. I'm amazed about that one. Usually, 2 at the very least is what I've seen. So here, let's look up the Elegoo Mars 3. And then we'll look up the Calent D60, I believe it is. Calent Orbit. No, I don't want to see the old Elegoo. Yeah, we might have to. I want to say it's the D60. Did I misspell Calent? I probably did, because I can't spell it. Kelant. Okay, not sure why it's coming up. Oh, hey, look. It's the Elegoo Mars 3, a.k.a. the Kingroon KP3, a.k.a. the Calent C60. Sorry, not D60. Sorry. Different thing. Look, they didn't even change it. They said, we're fine. Low vibration, high stability. Okay, so yeah, it's literally the same exact thing. It's got the setup here. It's got the air filtration. The only difference is the Calent has the Mars style spring-loaded plate. I personally like the 4-point systems. They're far superior for leveling and to remain leveling. So that's my 2 cents on that one. Slicer, Calent slicer. I don't know about that one. Yeah, 130, 80, and 150. So this is actually a smaller version than this. Ooh, that's popping kind of hard there. It's not liking that resin too much, eh? All right. Let's see. 12.5 Oh, that's the z-axis. I was like, there's no way. Yeah, 50 That's about right. So the big difference between these two units and the Elegoo Mars 3 is the fact that this has a 4K LCD. But I know what you're probably going to say. Well, it looks completely different. Yeah, it's the same printer. Trust me. Elegoo does their own little touches on it, but essentially it's the same type of printer. So yeah, see that's a Callan holder right there. Boom, same thing, same setup, same knob, same linear rail. Oop. It's very strange how they change some things but leave others. So like the Kingroon has this build plate but not this setup, and then the Elegoo has this setup but not that build plate. So very, very strange. $300. So yeah, that sounds about right. You have a pair of gloves, plastic scraper, U-disc, manual, funnel, pliers, and leveling paper. So, but yeah, pretty much all the same type of printers. It's the same with most resin printers, FDM filaments, FDM printers. A lot of people just contract out through various companies, and usually there's like one main company that makes most of the units, and then they just do different changes. Take, for example, the Creality CR6 SE, the Anycubic Viper, the Focus Odin 5, is it? Maybe it's the Focus 5 Odin 3 or something like that. The Mingda Magician X, they're literally all the same printer. They just got one has Anycubic stuff in it, one has Creality stuff in it, but essentially they're the printer base is all based off of one printer. So same thing here. Elegoos just look a little bit fancier because they can spend the extra money to do it. So, but it's very, very easy to change all this. Easy, easy peasy. So yeah, not too bad for $150 so far. I think we'll just let this fly, and I'll probably jet out of here in the next 20 minutes or so because I got stuff to do in the morning, and I really should be in bed right now, but yeah, it's fine. Not the end of the world. I figured I'd come on here and show you guys the new resin printer, which we have. I have two new resin printers that I got unboxed and set up. So we're going to be shuffling some stuff around because I still got to do a review on this, which I haven't even really started printing much on this. I got my first printer off of it that I need to do. So we'll have to check that out. And what's my thoughts on used resin printers? Well, it depends on how expensive they are, because I usually base them off of, if the person can tell me how many hours are used on it, which most people are not going to tell you. They're just going to say, oh, well, I've done a handful of prints on it. A handful of prints can be, 10 to 20 different prints. Who knows? and who knows how long they actually take. You know, are they full build plate? What I mean, full build plate, full Z height, or are they just like, you know, flat prints that take, you know, 10 minutes to do? So you really have to figure that out. But all in all, I mean, if you're getting a used resin printer for smaller ones, don't spend over $120. That's really like, if you can buy this brand new at 150, what's the point of buying any small resin printer for less than 120? Now, there are some exceptions out there because there are different variations of printers and what they can do. So like you have your really, really cheap printers that are like this. Then you have like higher end printers like my Weebox or the Nova 3D, or ones that basically don't use Shitu boards. They have their own slicers. They print very differently. They don't even have a Shitu box board in it. Like those type of printers, and I'll even include Anycubic in that. They are a little bit different, but they're on the same level as a Shitu box. Those printers, again, I wouldn't pay over $120 on it, no matter how much print time is in them, because you're going to probably end up replacing a screen right away. That's $40 right there, and you're already above what a brand new printer is. So really, you have to weigh your options, but you know, that all depends on what you're looking for. If you want to get into resin printing cheap and somebody's selling a resin printer for $50 to $100, absolutely buy it. Buy it right then and there. No matter how many printing hours it's got on it, it'll be worth it. By the time you get your 5th print out of it, you'll be more than satisfied with the printer. And you'll probably end up getting another printer because you'll realize, just like FDM, oh, well, this printer's tied up. Now I need to get another one. So now if we're talking about medium-sized resin printers, that one's kind of hard to generate a price on, but I'd say like probably $350. I wouldn't go over $350 on that. Maybe even a little bit lower if we're talking about the Elegoo Saturn, because the Elegoo Saturn is like the lowest of the low of medium-sized printers. It's right there with the Calent S400. It's literally the same exact printer. Well, technically the S500. They're based off of the same printer. Again, it's a Calent product, just redesigned for the Elegoo. So yeah, that would be my price point on that. But the chances of you finding like a big machine, like this monster right here, this is the Frozen Sonic Mega, and that basically, like, if you find something comparative, which most likely it's going to be a Frozen Transform or the Peopoly Phenom, I would say no more than like 500, 600 at the very most for a printer that size. But again, you're getting much, much lower quality. At that point, this is the only printer that is not FDM quality in a bigger printer out there right now. So, what's up, Matt? How's it going? Just checking out the Kingroon KP6, aka the Elegoo Mars 3, aka the Calent C60. This is actually a nice printer for the price so far. So you got both of your printers for $250 each, or both of them? And what kind of? Oh, you had the LDR and the LDH. So that's actually a pretty good price. I'd say that's good. So that's $125 for each of them, and one of them's a monochrome screen. So that's good. That's very good. I think that's pretty much like what I sold mine at. I think I sold them for about 115 each, I think it was. So yeah, so far it's a nice little printer. It's not bad. I can't believe it's not bar. Don't ask me why I said that. I have no idea. So yeah, but for $150, I mean, that's a steal for a printer of this size with a monochrome screen. Like I said, if this prints good, this will be my new good printer for starters, for sure. I paid $100 for the R and $150 for the H. Okay, so still, that's not bad. I'd say maybe a little bit over on the H, but that's still a pretty good price. Because I mean, you can probably still find them for 200. Let's see, Creality LD-002H. What are they going for? That's the Halide one. Oh, that's right. They might have snuffed them all out by now. Oof. Might not be able to see. But either way, okay, let's look at the original LDR. The LDR is going for 185. That means the LDH is probably around 250. And yeah, pretty much they snuffed them out because now Creality has Pionex creating their resin printers. And yeah, they're on a whole new level in terms of resin printing. So, but I don't even see them for sale anymore. 290. That's a nice machine. There you go. Whoa. $750. You got to be kidding me. That's hysterical. Yeah, I don't even see it. At least on Amazon, I don't see it for a good price. That's way too much. Like, that's an insane amount of money. Yep. They don't even have it on here anymore. The Mars Pro 2. So here, basically, this would be a comparable machine to this Kingroon in terms of like what it's got, and you're still about $100 cheaper. So, and it's got a better bed leveling system. So, please use the Slice software Shi2Box version 1.8.1 in the SD card. That's not going to happen. I have Pro for a reason. Premium design, linear guide rail, plus screw motor stabilized Z-axis structure design. The printing speed is max 50 millimeters an hour, which is about 3 times faster. 180 millimeter ultra high Z-axis palm aberration nut. Okay. Reduce the layer pattern, effectively reduce the abnormal noise of the Z-axis. It definitely is very, very quiet. I will say that. So, two things that make this a little bit better of a buy than the Voxel Lab is it's much quieter than the Voxel Lab, and it's taller. And that's really about it. Like the price range, yeah, it's cheaper too, but I don't know if it's going to be that price range or it's going to go back up to 180. But still, even at $180, that's a pretty good deal for a resin printer, because you can probably still get a Anycubic wash and cure for $100. Yeah. So limited time deal. $115, $109 even for the Elegoo version, which is literally the Anycubic. Yeah, that's not too bad. So to get into resin printing, if you got about $350, you're into resin printing. That'll get you a wash and cure station, which I highly recommend to anybody getting into it. A small resin printer, and a bottle of resin. And you're ready to rock and roll. At least out of Amazon. I mean, you can probably find better deals. You know, it all depends on what you want. But for what this printer offers already, it's probably one of the better deals out there. What would I recommend for a medium size for like statue prints? Really, that's all going to depend on you because there is a wide variety of printers. If you're someone like me and you don't truly care about how fast a printer is, then this right here is the Calent S400. And you can pick this up off of AliExpress, I believe, with free shipping for less than $375. Now, the downside of this is this entire top part is all pieced together. Now, that only took me like 20 minutes to put it together. But if you don't care to have a top on it, like if you print in a dark room and you have, you know, like I have a filtration system right there, that's basically it's a tower fan. So I can have all these tops off here and be perfectly fine. But if you're someone that doesn't care to have a top on it, then by all means just take it off. But what I did is I unboxed this on the live stream and I set a test print to go. And while it was test printing, I put this together in the time before it finished the test print. Now, again, this is slower because it's an RGB screen. So if you're worried about wanting to print fast, then there's the Voxelab 8.9, which is essentially the Elegoo Saturn. I personally am just not a big fan of Elegoo. Elegoo several times has left a bad taste in my mouth with their whole Kickstarter thing, and I'm just kind of done with Elegoo. Elegoo does have the Saturn. That's pretty good. Mine was absolute trash. So I mean, you can look at that. But again, they're literally the same printer, but the Voxelab has a better build plate leveling system. That's one of my biggest gripes with Elegoo is the ball joint pop socket system. I don't like those setups. I like the 2 and the 2, and you basically set it up there. So Creality left a bad taste. Join the club. Oddly enough, though, Creality's resin printers have been good to me at least. I have the Creality Hellet Sky, which you might be able to just see the top of it right there. And that is probably hands down the best medium resin printer out there, but it is very expensive. I think they're like almost $900, but I mean, you get what you pay for. They work and work and work and work and work. They are great printers, but with that being said, it's not a Creality printer. It's made by a company called Pionext. Creality literally just slaps their name on it, and I mean literally slapped it on. So much so that the stickers came off. Because I have a beta unit, however you want to say it, of the Hellet Sky, and it's unfortunately unupgradable with their stuff. So I'm stuck using like Shitu box. I do all my stuff in the slicer, and then to slice the file to send it to the printer, I use the Creality box is what they called it. And yeah, that's basically how I do that. But that's nothing new to me. I used to do that back in the day with like the Nova Elfin printer. That was a great printer. Another cheap medium-sized printer, which I'm a big fan of Frozen products. They have been very kind to me. They're great with their customers. They're always on top of things. They don't utilize Kickstarter. Like, they actually produce products and get them to the customers in a good, timely manner. And they've always been good to me. And they have the Frozen Sonic Mighty, which is a great printer. Matt German, I actually bought one for him with the help of our buddy James Rook, Honey Badger, and we basically threw in together, and Frozen helped us out with a little bit of a discount, and that's basically what we did. So he's got a nice printer, and he's been printing away as far as I know. So it's more the customer service than the printers. Oh, for me, it's both. Yeah, Creality is just it's trash. Creality made a name for themselves very well because they had an amazing marketing, and Elegoo is basically so Creality left a huge bad taste in my mouth with FDM printers, specifically the Ender 3 line. Now, the CR10 line was always great. They kind of messed with it a lot lately, and they're not as good as they used to be, but the original CR10s are still amazing workhorses. Now, they basically dumb-nosed down and made the Ender 3, and I don't know what they did, but it's just a disaster. I've never had a good experience with an Ender 3, and unfortunately, I got to buy another one for a project that I'm working on that requires me to have an Ender 3. So that'll be fun to have an Ender 3 in my hands again. It'll just be like the good old days 3 years ago when I used to have a literal print farm of them. And every single day, one of them would just be having issues. So anyway, Elegoo was basically the same thing to me for resin printing. I had the original Elegoo Mars, which was an awesome printer, and then just out of nowhere, it started not printing right. And I found out that it was just an issue with the machines. They had changed a bunch of stuff by the time I bought my unit, and everybody's like, oh, well, you have this version, and they changed a bunch of things, and now it doesn't print as well. And I'm like, oh, okay. So of course I get stuck with the bad unit, and I disassembled the whole thing, put it back together, fixed the part, and it still didn't print quite right. It was printing a millimeter, and it was like 1.2 millimeters off of what it should have been. And so I fixed it, and I got it down to like 0.5 or 0.4 or something like that. So it was close, but it was still not good. And so I ended up getting rid of it, and I never had a Elegoo since the Saturn. And so I bought a Saturn, and yeah, it was just one part failed, then another part failed, then another part failed, then another part failed, and another part failed. And I was like, all right, this is terrible. And you can clearly see like the QC had just went right downhill. It was terrible. So like they literally pulled a Creality. Like, we made a name for ourselves so we can cut back on some things, and QC is one of them, or as we always called it, quick check. And that's basically what happened. And you can see all throughout like the Facebook groups, like people have issues with their Saturns all the time of like the screens dying. There's, originally there was like parts that were just rattling around everywhere. There was a ton of issues, and still is consistent issues with the Saturn. And the newest one is the power board, which I experienced as well, to basically light the LEDs. And yeah, so I had to end up replacing that. So I am doing the normal Ender 3, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because the one project I'm working on, I will probably not like that project very much, because I see it being a failing point already. Because there's a group of us working on it right now. I haven't even started on mine, but there's a group of us working on it right now, and it's just not going very well. And I don't think that the product is not going to launch the way that they are intending it to. And they're probably not going to be very happy with our reviews on it, but it is what it is. But it requires a lot of attention and extra work, far more than just regular 3D printing. And then to top that off, there's another project that I'm going to try and reach out to, but I don't know if I'll have the time to do the conversion on it. But basically, there's someone out there who is selling CR30 conversion kits or print mill kits for the Ender 3 and Ender 3 Pro, specifically those two models. So if I happen to keep those or keep the Ender 3, I'm going to, take the modification that I'm going to do to it with this product, and then I'm going to remove that and then utilize it in a different sense and turn it into a print mill. I'll probably never ever use it, but it'll just be cool to have as like a content creation type thing, because the Anycubic Viper is serving me very well. In fact, this just came off the printer today. It's a new special turner for the crappy Creality wash and cure station that they have, the U0W2, which is just a disaster. So got to do some minor fixing on the holes on the bottom here, because the tolerances are a little too tight. So we'll stretch it out a little bit and then reprint it and then kind of go from there. But yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. I probably should, now that I'm talking about this, I should test fit this as well. Make sure that comes out the way that it's intended. Yeah, that fits good. Okay. Yeah. So we're good on that. Thanks, Matt Farmer and James, for the printer. I love the printer. Thank you so much. You are very welcome, sir. And I hope you are having a fantastic time with it. So, which it looks like you are. So we're about an hour in. So I'll stay on here for about another half hour. Right now we're at about 55%. Okay, so another half hour and we'll finish the print. So I'll stay on until that print is finished, just to see if it actually prints it. I'm pretty sure it is, because I hear it peeling every time it gets it. So I have a feeling that this resin is actually being overexposed. So hey dude, you really are a night owl. Yeah, I probably should be in bed, because I got to be up early in the morning to pick up the wife and kid, because they spent the night at a hotel room, and I have me and my daughter all go and grab them and have breakfast. But yeah, like I said, I'll be on here for at least another half hour. I'll be up. So, but yeah, we're checking out a new printer, seeing how it goes. So I suggested the Voxelab Proxima to Ben, and if this keeps printing good, this will probably be my new replacement for it, because it's a bigger height, which means you could do more, and then secondly, it has a better leveling system for the build plate. So. The only difference is I don't know much about Kingroon and their support. I know that Voxelab is backed by FlashForge, and that's a very, very large 3D printing company. So you can see it right here on the stream, I would think. It's going for 150 right now. So that's actually a very, very good deal. But don't go buying it yet. We're going to take a week and test it out and see how it goes. I mean, you can buy it. You can also return it if it doesn't work out for you. But basically, this is an Elegoo Mars 3. The only difference is the Elegoo Mars 3 has a 4K screen. This has a 2K screen. So it's literally the same exact setup as the Voxel Lab Proxima. The only difference, like I said, is it's got 30 millimeter more on the height. So, like I said, this one is 180, I think it said. 180 millimeters. And let's see about this one. Pretty sure it says somewhere around here. Blah, 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 blah. It does not go blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so it's got 25 millimeters. 25? Yes, 25 more millimeter in height. So I don't have money for another right now. Super happy with the Proxima. Good. Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. I mean, if you happen to sell your prints, to friends or something like that, then that easily can make you some money real quick. Like, people always ask me, well, do you make money with your resin printing? And I do. It's not a lot. I usually don't sell prints like this because these are somebody's prints. If somebody asked me to buy these, then I'd reach out to the person who designed it just to make sure it's okay. Because I never really read to see if they're okay for distribution and for selling. I just download them so I can print them and show them off. But usually I will say 9 times out of 10, even if they're not meant for selling, if I reach out to the seller, most of the time they say yes. And I'll usually do a kickback to them, like $2 or something per print. So just to say thank you. So I did not see that. Now, I will say that the last time that G-Tech came out with a resin printer, it was insanely over-engineered. It was a Anycubic photon on steroids. Like, they had their own proprietary board. It had its own slicer on it. It had the ability to use dual screens. Like, it was insane. The printer, like, if they kept up with that resin printer, it would have been a really, really nice printer. But unfortunately, they didn't market it very well, and that's just kind of how it was. So let's go ahead and take a look at G-Tech. I don't think that's their website, but let's take a look. Oh, it is. Oh, okay. I see. That's a very interesting printer. It's definitely different than anything else I've seen. I like the colors. Huh. I will have to reach out to them because that looks very, very interesting. Now this is all rendering, unfortunately. There's no true picture, but yeah, that is a very interesting setup. The Alcade. That's definitely not somebody else's printer either. Like usually when a company comes out with a new printer, it's usually based off of another company's printer. Case in point, the Calent C60. Calent makes a large variety of printers for people, but this doesn't even look like a Calent printer. Like, this looks like something completely new. And I know they had the wash and cure station, so that's very interesting. What is this? The GC02. What is the difference between this and that? Hold up. So I had this. What's the difference between that one and this one? This one's newer, I take it. Okay. Maybe a new spinner? So it's got, okay, so they did do some upgrades. So they upgraded the basket. Now it's got a hinge. Oh, no, that's the same. UV light is the same. So they have a different, no, it's the same mechanism for that. They have a leveling on it, which they didn't before. Same style washer, curing mode. Okay, that's the same. Let's see what the sizes are. Okay. There's literally no difference in terms of what it's got. So, just slight variations. Nothing to really write home about. But their resin printer is very, very interesting. I'm very curious about it. You should ask about one, Matt, because it looks like the Proxima locking system for the vat. Can I zoom in here? Oh yeah, I can. So that looks like similar to the Proxima. That's a crazy build plate if that's the real thing. What do I find so good about it? I don't know. I can't really say what's good about it. It's definitely a different printer setup. I like the color, if that's the true coloring on it. That's kind of cool. The base of it is kind of a nicer base because it's a raised up screen. Like, I was never a big fan of the front facing stuff. I like this setup. So it's a 6.08 2K resolution, 3.5 inch, 82 by 130 by 190. So it's even bigger than this printer. Linear rail, okay, that's normal for anything. I don't know why everybody boasts about that. New generation of matrix light source. Oh boy, that worries me right there. But 15-piece highlight power quartz lamp beads. I don't know about that, but ergonomic design, strict test, key components, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's really nice looking. And that's nice to have that the anti-backlash, like that is an important thing on all resin printers. And most of them don't have it. So it does have a matrix LED. I wonder if it's got a purification system on it. But this is very, very interesting. High efficiency cooling system. Okay, so that's just a cooling. Not the end of the world that it doesn't have that. That's a nice UI if that's like that. UV blocking cover, meh. 99.96, that's good. For your convenience to change the release film, redesign the compared with the other previous fixing method, you only need to tighten 14 screws to complete the release. Okay. 8 times anti-lacing. That's nice to have. 51 millimeters for the resolution. That's good. That's about normal. Shitu box. It'll use a Dodge CTV. That's good. Okay. Everything else looks good here. Huh. Is that $300? So yeah, it's a little bit on the expensive side, but that's a nice printer. I like that design. I was thinking of getting 2 small Anycubic mono printers for the same price. So I'm kind of so-so with the smaller Anycubic printers because I believe they have a ball joint system, which I'm not a big fan of. Now, I'm not saying that it won't work or that you can't use it for printing. It's just in my experience, I'm very manhandly with my prints at times. So I always see that like my Voxelab Proxima, my Elegoo Mars, my Anycubic Photons, they always had to be releveled after X amount of time because of how much pressure I was using on them. And just the way that I would remove them, because I would take off the build plate and then I would put it down like this and scrape it off. So I'd have all of my force going down on the build plate while pulling up this way to hold it. And that's basically what would happen is it would become unleveled. So I'm not a big fan of the ball joint system. So if it's not like that, then then okay. But yeah, if you're looking for smaller printers, this is a pretty good one to start with so far. But we'll see how the test print goes. We're at 77%. I'm expecting a failure. My failure rate for test prints are very, very high. But it does sound like it's still suctioning off of the FEP, so we might actually be okay with this one. Well, I think it's sticking. So, but yeah, I would hold off a little bit, Matt. And just because I know what's coming out on the market, and I can't really say much more than that. So, I level after every print on my Proxima because of how I sit it down to remove the objects. Yeah. See, and that's one of the problems that I have with those style of leveling systems. Whereas this one, as you can see, it has the 4 screws. So 1, 2, and then there's 1, 2. No matter how much pressure you put on this, and these even have lock washers on them. So once you tighten these down and you wrench them down, they aren't going anywhere for a very, very long time. I'll be honest, I have not re-leveled any of these printers. Yeah, I have not re-leveled any of them since I bought them because all of them have this 4-point system. All of them. No need to have it. We have 15 more minutes. Let's see how ridiculously small these gloves are. Or are these normal size? Oh, these actually look big. These are big. There's no in between. It's either they're too big or they're too small. That's what she said. Yeah, so just hold off a little bit. I know you're probably having a fantastic time with the Mighty, but yeah, just keep working with the Mighty for right now, and just wait a little bit because, like I said, I know what's coming out on the market, and it's going to be something market changing that will basically take care of everybody else, all the competition. So the gloves that came with mine were tiny. Yeah, exactly. Like, so we were watching our buddy Honey Badger. His name's James Rook, and he was doing an unboxing of the Proxima today, and he went to go put the gloves on, and they were like skin tight. So yeah, I have a box of gloves just out of sight there that I usually use, but I figure, hey, why not use the gloves the first go, and see how they fare, just to have a good laugh, just to get them out of here, because otherwise I'll just end up throwing them out anyway. So most of the time I do. One thing I do suggest for anybody that has resin printers, if you guys have the stock USB drive, replace that with something better. I personally use SanDisk Cruisers, 16 gigabyte, and I replace all my stuff. So as you can see here, this is replaced with a SanDisk Cruiser, 16 gigs. So just because these USBs that come with us with these printers are usually okay at best, and most of the time they do fail. And they always tend to fail when a print is, halfway through or 3/4 of the way. Plus, it's always best to replace them just to be on the safe side, because you can be having a ton of problems with your printer, and here you are pulling your hair out, not knowing what is what, and basically it can just be something as simple as a bad USB drive, bad system error on it, or whatever they call it. A specific section of that USB might be bad. So while some of the print might work, the other might not. So we are at 85% with 11 minutes to go. So we're at 458 layers out of 534. That's what I've got, the Cruiser. Yeah. Oddly enough, Frozen, they actually include Cruisers with their machines. Now, they're 8 gigs, and they're not, I don't know if they're real or not, but I just always end up replacing them anyway, even if they came with SanDisks. Usually the higher end machines come with SanDisk stuff. So, or the better machines, I've noticed. So that's an easy indicator to figure out if you're getting a good machine or not. So, all right, let's go ahead and stop sharing the screen. Let's just check our face. Oh God, we got a Brit in the U.S. Let's see. Hey, so here's a question. I keep getting these memory errors and the print will stop. Raise up and then lower back down and continue printing. Is that normal? That is definitely not normal. Does it say that there's like an error on it, or is it just something that you see? MM11800. Yeah, that's something new to me. I've never seen an error like that before. My suggestion is to redo your entire SD card, format it. Couldn't think of the word. Format it, like do an actual format, not a quick one. Like it should take quite a few minutes. It should take like a half an hour. You can download a program called like SD card formatter. That'll truly format your USB drive. Format that and then try and load on a new print and see if that helps. But yeah, that's something new to me. I'm not really sure. That would just be one thing to figure out systematically if it's a USB drive issue or if it's something going on the inside. So I would just start with something simple, like I said, redo your SD card, reformat it, and go from there and see if it still continues. If it still continues, then I'd contact whoever you bought it from, Amazon. You can even find it on, find the Facebook group for the Voxel Lab. They will probably help you out. There's tons of the agents on there. So. Yeah, I don't know who that is talking. Hold on. Let's see. Let's go to the noobs group. Pretty sure you're on here. Hey, Matt, do you still have any FDM printers hanging around for sale? I actually just did my finishing review on the BQ-B1 SE Plus. I did have it printing a helmet on there. So that will be up for sale soon. I don't know what the price is going to be on it. I think the retail is $350 on it. So it'll probably be like $220, $225 shipped if somebody wants it. So, but the problem is somebody already kind of claimed that one. So I don't have any technically currently for sale. But we do have quite a few more. So if you just want to wait a little bit, we will be. I have to do an unboxing of the Lotmax Shark SC10, I think it is. The FAM 260, which is kind of like a ridiculous industrial version of an Ender 3. So we'll see how that one goes. I'm not expecting much out of it. All right, so we are 5 minutes away from the end. How hard and messy is resin printing? So I have all my stuff set up here. This is a silicone mat. This will help wonders for anybody who's resin printing. I do all my work on here. This is a Wham Bam slat mat. This is very, very nice because it's very big. So I have a lot of room to work with, and I can do everything on there. So the downside to resin printing is it is very messy. The upside to resin printing is I personally think that it is about 10 times easier to learn resin printing than it is FDM. Because FDM, if something goes wrong, it can be a whole slew of things. It can be my extruder is bad, my extruder's cracked, my hot end is blocked. I have a clog. I have the PTFE tube is not seated correctly. Like a ton of different things. And with resin printing, I unboxed this. What? We've been on stream for an hour and 32 minutes. I unboxed this. I set it up for $150 right there. Now, add a bottle of resin for what? $20 to $30, depending on what resin. Okay, so for less than $200, you got a resin printer. Add another $100 onto that. So in the $350 range, you can get yourself a wash and cure station, which that'll do everything for you. You just throw the print in there. It'll wash all the resin off of it right away. Shoot, there's even ones where you can just take the build plate off and stick it right in there and wash it right then and there. It's much, much easier. So I personally don't do that. I like using the basket. But some people use the build plate dip method. Hey, what's up, Ty? How's it going, man? It's not that bad. You just need to have a lot of paper towels and a trash can nearby. Paper towels, gloves, and trash can is just out of sight here. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I'm gonna buy a trash can that fits underneath here so I can just pull it out, put all my stuff in there, and call it a day. But basically, like I just remove the supports. I put everything on here. There you go. And this is silicone, so nothing will stick to this. Silicone mat does wonders. So again, for anybody that's watching that does resin printing, silicone mats go a long way. I'm not a big fan of the price of this mat, but it's kind of worth it, to be honest, because of how ridiculously huge it is. Now, if you can find somebody that's cheaper, that has a mat that size, then okay. All right, so we're pretty much almost done here. Oh my God, and it actually printed all of them. I'm amazed. So we have 1 minute left. Don't forget the glasses. Yes. I do highly suggest some glasses as well. Or goggles, because you don't want IPA or resin in your eyes. Get something like this. Boom. So the wash and cure thing just does all the nasty stuff. Basically, yeah. So like, all right, I finished a print, okay? The problem is resin is liquid, okay? So liquid goes everywhere. But if I had, so here's one thing, okay? The wash and cure has a build plate holder feature, but that's only if you get an Anycubic printer and an Anycubic wash and cure station, which there is a bundle on Amazon. I think it's $301 and it includes resin. You can do that. And it's a smaller printer. So that's actually a really, really good bundle. But I don't particularly care for Anycubic printers, to be in all honesty. I love their wash and cure products. And I have a small one here. So if you end up getting a resin printer, I can sell you my modded original wash and cure station. So it's slight modded. It's not like, oh my God, it's going to be life-changing, but it helps out with the reflection of the setup there. And yeah, basically, so this will drip. And there's these other things called drip plates. or drip holders. So what it does is I can go ahead and take this and drip this off to the side, and there's a little holder there. Now, unfortunately, because this is a brand new machine, there's not really anything out there for it right now, but you can just hold it by hand and drip it off, or you could scrape it off. But there you go. There's your prints. That took an hour and 17 minutes to print those 3. Now, granted, that's very, very small. They're only, maybe the size of my thumb, the tip of my thumb, but still. Sell you a printer that works. That might be a possibility. Do you have a wash and cure station as well? Because I also have an extra one of those. I have my used one that I can sell you, but I also have a brand new one that I've never even used. I bought it and I was going to use it for a giveaway, and I just never got around to it. And now I want to do a bigger giveaway. So, but yeah, like this printer, shoot, I actually have 3 resin printers I need to do unboxings for. But yeah, one of the smaller printers is going to be going here in a little bit. I haven't decided what, but it'll probably be this one. I got to do some testing with. So once we're done with this, we'll see about doing it as like a giveaway or selling it or whatever. So you have the brand new Creality one. Hopefully it's not the UW02, because that is a pile of dog crap. Which is why it's in pieces. Because I was like super excited for it, and I paid full price for it and waited 3 months for it to get here. And then it got here and I was like, this is a disaster. So my smaller Anycubic wash and cure station does better. So hopefully you have the smaller one, the UW01. So, but yeah. So we probably will end up selling this one. But if you're interested in it, I know you said you were taking back the Creality one. This is only $150 on Amazon. So if you do a return, this is worth it. It prints well. Had it up and running in less than 2 hours. We had a print up and running and completed. Now, the great thing that I love about resin printing versus FDM is no matter what you put on the build plate, it's only going to matter how tall the print is. So this print is a plate. Now, I can't obviously fit that on there, so it's going to print a lot longer on resin than it is FDM, but it'll be much higher quality. So let's take for example this print, which I think is just a little bit over. So if you size this down just a little bit, okay, on an FDM printer, this would probably take quite a few hours to print this. Okay, even though it's hollow. On a resin printer, this would probably take, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours, if that. And the only thing is you'd have to like angle it properly to do the right supports, which we basically had it angled like that on the build plate. And yeah, I think it took like 3 or 4 hours. So very, very quick. But that's one of the great things about resin printing is like, I can do like 4 of these things, 4 of these, and this is sharp. Okay, this is weaponized. Like that will pierce through this glove. That's how sharp that detail is. Okay, no FDM printer is going to do something that sharp. But I can do like 4 or 5 of those on a build plate. And I can basically do that. I think it's 2 hours to print these, but I can do 4 of them at once in one go. So, have UW1 as that junk? No, as far as I know, it's good. Like I did a side-by-side comparison of the Wash and Cure Plus from Anycubic, and the Creality UW02, which is their big one, and it's not even a comparison. So like the UW02 is severely underpowered, so much so I'm making a new spinner for it because it's that terrible. So I got some more modifications to do, but yeah. Are supports easier to deal with versus FDM? Absolutely. They just tear away. And what's even better is, okay, you can, let's say you have heavier supports on it, okay? Just because, let's say we have a full print that is solid, okay? And we supported it and everything. We used heavy supports. All you have to do is clean it off with your wash station. And basically, once it's cleaned off, go and take it to another like bin that you have, fill it up with hot water, and dunk it in there and let it sit for a second, and you can literally just peel away the supports. But the resin print will be fine. It's the supports that are like, the density is much different than the actual print, so you can easily remove supports from it. So I do resin printing more or less out of anything. Like I have one FDM printer, that's my Viper, and that's what this just came off of. Like, look at that. Look at that. Look at that layer. That first layer is amazing. I love that flex sheet. Awesome. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all resin printers that I have here. Now I got some bigger resin printers. Like that is a 10-inch resin printer right there. That's a big boy. Just out of the site is another medium-sized printer like this this Calent right here, which we'll probably end up selling this Calent soon. So that one, that Calent retails for $373. So we might throw it out there for like probably like $220, $225, somewhere around there, just because it's older technology. So yes. So when I say that, make sure that you wash all the resin off of it first before you use hot water. Hot water will make your supports peel away much easier. I usually don't use it, but if I'm on the Mega and I'm doing a big print, I'm probably going to end up using it. Like I did a helmet that was what's his name? Black Panther helmet. And the supports that I had to use were a little bit heavier. So trying to remove the supports, like I got in there, but it was just like, I'm going to be sitting here for like an hour trying to remove these supports. So I washed it all off as best as I could. And then I put it in I have like a basement sink, and I plugged it up, put in some hot water, put on some gloves so I'm not scalding my hands. And basically they rip apart like it's nothing. So, I mean, do you usually have to use less supports? Like if a model is really support heavy, you will need the same amount of supports on the resin print model. Yeah, so supports are going to vary from print to print, but it is a lot less compacted supports than FDM does. So like FDM, I'll show you right here. I just had to remove some. So like here's an FDM support, okay? You see how they're all like compacted together and it's like a giant violin? This is with nice support settings, okay? I don't even have to do that with resin printing. Resin printing, I could just do automatic supports and it'll mostly put the supports in there. And, you know, for like this helmet is hollow. And all I did was just angle it at the right angle, okay? And then I just put supports that basically I'm supporting the back end of this, because what's happening is while I'm printing it, you don't want anything to like peel the force to peel away. So that's really all you're doing is using the peel force for it, for the supports. So I'd say that's probably the hardest part to learn is print supports on resins. And that's really that's the one that it's very hard to teach somebody hey, this is how you should support it, because you can always over support something and it'll be fine. It's not the end of the world, but I guarantee you will use less support on resin prints than you do FDM. I can guarantee that 100% of the time, because I don't have any. Well, maybe I do. Hold on. Let me look over there. So here is where'd he go? Where'd you go? Where do you go? Did I not print you again? I guess I didn't. Thought I did. Oh, you might still be on the build plate. Anyway, so here's supports for this little model. Okay. That's it. And they just tear away. Super simple. That's it. Now with these, you got to be a little bit gentler because you don't want to rip away the ears or anything. But look, they just rip away. Super simple. Boom. There you go. That's it. There's the bulk of the supports gone. Boom. Done. Now you just do a little bit of cleanup. Like I said, just leave it right on the mat here. Use your gloves. And here's the other thing. For me, I don't have an allergy to resins. Now, you really shouldn't be touching resin with your bare hands. But if you do, just make sure you're near a place that you can wash your hands off very thoroughly, because it will get in your skin and everything. And it anything that you touch, you go to eat something, you will get it in your mouth. It's happened several times before. Even when I have gloves on, when I go to remove stuff, I'll go and I'll tab over here and I'll forget that I touched this part of the desk or that part, and I'll go to put my hand down and it just happens. So for me, I don't really have an issue with resin touching it, but yeah, always use gloves if you have them. So, but yeah, that came out pretty good. And the other cool thing is you can do cool prints way better than you can on an FDM. Like I said, one of the major things about resin is the amazing detail. Look at that. That's hair. That's hair. That is insane. That's sharp, dude. That is a weapon. Crazy details. And you can do vase mode if you want. You can do all kinds of different stuff. You could do clear colors if you want to. That's see-through green. Look, here's an emerald. Or a rupee. It actually is from Zelda. Boom. I could easily print that on there. No problem. All I do is just support it like that. Just like that. On an angle. 30 to 35% angle. That's it. That's all you need. I personally think it's a heck of a lot easier and a lot less stress to resin print than an FDM. FDM, like I said, anything can go wrong with it. So the only time you get layer lines is okay, if I print this straight up and down, okay, you're basically utilizing this and there's suction. So think about when you put a bucket or a cup in water. Okay, what happens? Is it suctions out, right? That's basically the same thing here. So if you print straight up and down, you're going to probably have some layer lines, but they ain't going to be anywhere near what an FDM is. So like here, let's see if we can see this. You guys can see those layer lines, right? Right? Let's pull this print. Do you see any layer lines there? I don't see any layer lines. In fact, I see skin and I see bumps of the skin. Okay? That's how insanely detailed. This came right off the printer, just like this. And then here's the other cool thing. Okay? This print is not solid. It's hollow. Okay? So you put some drain holes in it, and you can save yourself money on resin if you're okay with that. You don't have to print solid. Like, this guy is solid. He is solid through and through. That's a solid print. But this is hollow. This is a solid print. This came off the printer just like this. All I did was just wash all the resin off and cure it. That's it. That's all I did. But look at that. No supports in the eyes, nothing. Just right off the printer. And then you can do some real cool stuff like glow-in-the-dark resin. Then that's the other great thing about resins is you can do flexible materials. You can do ABS materials. You can do nylon materials. You can do all that stuff without having to change not a thing except for your exposure times. That's it. You don't have to change out different build plate. You don't have to change out, the different LCD screen. Like on an FDM printer, you need an enclosure for ABS or nylon or PC. You need to have an all-metal hot end in order to use it. You need to have a dual-geared extruder to print with TPU, or at least good, I should say. You can't use a PEI sheet with flexible TPU material because it'll bond to it. Like, you don't have to worry about that. It's just the resin itself. Just change out the resin. Do your exposure tests and call it a day. That's it. I do not use ironing. No. This is simplified 3D, and this is just how that filament works. It's real nice and shiny. Do I put a hole on the top? Again, that really depends on the print, but on this print, this was a test print, so there's no hole on the top, just 3 holes on the bottom. That's it. But when you do holes like this, you got to make sure that you can get in there and shine the UV light inside there. So if you're doing stuff with holes in it, you got to be careful with it. Here's another one that is a coin. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's got a name on it, and it's got a name pretty clearly. It says longer on it. That's a little tiny coin. And, you can do insanely small prints. That's the other cool thing about resin, is I can do something that is super duper small. Like, I can literally make a benchy or anything that is almost microscopic. Like, you need to have a 100 times zoom to see what it is. Like, if I loaded up a print on this right now and I did like the world's smallest print, let's just say, screw it. Let's do that. Let's do this really quick. Let's see if we can. My trusty spatula. We'll take this off. And again, like I said, this is just my work area. So I clean this off. Got a nice spatula. We're going to go underneath. All right, there's 1 off. There's 2 off. There's 3 off. Okay. So we're good. All right. We'll do a really quick one for you guys. We just need to copy the settings because obviously those settings work. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up Sheet2Box here. And we're going to see what it registers at for our print settings and see what it says. So let's do share screen. We'll go here. And we'll go here. Okay, so let's close this down. Let's go and open up a file. Let's go to the USB drive. Oop, wrong one. Let's go to this one. All right. So this is going to take a little while because it's going to go for slicing and whatnot. But so I haven't done any settings. This was just a test print. But we're going to use the settings for this resin because obviously it worked. And so our settings for this are going to be 2 seconds and 20 for everything. So 5, 20, 5, 2, and 20. All right. So first off, we're going to change this and we're going to go into print. We're going to do 5, 2, and 20. Okay. Because that was our setup, right? We're going to delete this. We're going to open up a file and let's see what I got that I can do that's kind of small and quick. Let's see what we can do. This is the tough part, finding something I can print quick and small. I wish I had a benchy. I'd do that. Here, you know what? Let's do something small like that. Okay. That's hollow. Dang it. I don't want to do that. Hold on. Here, let's do a button. Whoa. Definitely need to scale that down. All right, so first off, let's flip this. All right, so it's flat on the base plate. All right, and now we're gonna scale this down. Let's do 2 mil. Okay, so really, really, really small, right? 2 millimeters. How tall is it? So it's 2 millimeters all around, basically. Or I'm sorry, 2% all around. It's going to be 5 millimeters. Let's do 5. Actually, let's do 2 millimeters. Let's see how that is. Okay, so all right, so this is 2 millimeters. This little tiny thing. Okay. So let's go ahead and slice it and see. It's going to take 4 minutes. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and save this. And hopefully it'll save it okay. It should. Because I know somebody said that they were having problems slicing stuff. So we got to make sure it's in CTB. And let's just do button. Now, I'll be honest. I've never done anything this ridiculously small. But actually, here, we'll do this even. We'll do one here, and then we'll scale one up to 5 millimeters. Okay, so that way we can have a comparison, right? So 7 minutes, not the end of the world. All right, so let's make sure that we're saving as .ctb. And we're going to save it on here. Button. All right. There we go. Hopefully it saves okay. We'll find out really quick. Yep, it's not saving. I know why. The firmware is not updated on it. So we have to use the old Shitu box that it has, which is fine. we'll just install it really quick. So the issue with these newer printers is the newer Shitu box requires these newer printers to have an update on the firmware, and obviously they haven't done a firmware update on it, which is why they include 1.8.1, because that's right before the 1.9 update that has the setup. So let's go ahead and run this. All right. Yes, I want to quit. So we'll just load this and reslice it really quick. Not the end of the world. Okay, okay. Delete Slimer. Get him out of here. We're going to go ahead and add our default for here. Import profile. Yes. Sorry, I'm doing a bunch of extra steps that are absolutely not needed, but I kind of need to have it done. Okay. So now we're good. Resin 5/220. Okay, so we're good on that. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and find our file again, and we're just going to reslice it in here. Invalid file. Awesome. Now we just kind of do that all over again. Let's go and find a button. Scale it down. 2 millimeters. Copy it. And set it up for 5 millimeters. Whoa. Why is that? Oh, because I want 5 millimeters here, not 5 millimeters there. Why does that look so goofy, though? What the heck? Hold on. There we go. So 2 millimeters there, 5 millimeters there. Let's go ahead and slice this. Save. And we will just right over this one button. Okay. So now we should be good. There we go. All right. Now we're going to let that set and print. That's pretty much it. We're gonna let it be, and I'll show you guys exactly how ridiculous this can be. So I'm trying to figure out something that has layer lines on it to do a comparison. And unfortunately, I don't really have anything that would show like layer lines for resin. But if you wanted to see something else, here's like supports, okay? You don't see layer lines on that. You see support dimples because I was impatient on removing supports, and that's what happened. But yeah, this guy printed just like this pretty much with supports. I think I printed them like this, if I'm not mistaken. That's my Akuma figure. We'll see how well this prints. I'm curious. I've never done one this small. Probably going to kill it because the burn-in layers are going to be a disaster. So one downside to resin printing, I will say, compared to FDM, is flat footing. So if you are someone like me that likes to print directly on the build plate, there's an issue where you get flat footing, because what's happening is those settings that I set up, basically what it does is those 5 base layers are going to run at 20 seconds. And then after those 5 base layers, it's going to be 2 seconds after that. So for those first 5 layers, it's going to over cure and bake the resin onto the build plate so it sticks. So this causes flat footing, which is why 99% of the time you are going to use supports. So with resin, do you still have to prime it to paint, or is it just able to be painted right away? That's a good question, to which I have no idea. I have never painted before, but obviously there's still some slight preparation that you should do. Even though resin has like more of a textured feel to it, you should probably still prime it and sand it lightly, but you won't have to sand it so terribly where you're like having to do primer filler. You could just do straight primer. So that's one of the nicer things, because you're not trying to get rid of layer lines, because there really isn't any. I mean, take for example this. There's no layer lines on that. Like, those lines are actually part of the print. There's no layer lines on that at all. Like, that supports right there, those little dimples. That's from supports. And then the other flip side to this is water washable resin, which I don't suggest because it's super brittle. It means I can basically crush it with my hands and it'll break into a million pieces. Whereas this, I can't do that so much because that's normal resin. But yeah, water washable is nice for people who don't want to have like all the chemicals and everything like that. That's perfectly fine. You can do that too. But I mean, look at this. This is a bird cage with a bird inside of it. That's what it printed for a test print. I know you can probably barely see that, but there's a bird inside there, just chilling in there. That's its test print. Oh my God, it's 4:00. Good morning, Vincent. I'm getting ready to head off here. I'm doing this one print and I'm calling it a night because I need to be in bed. I gotta wake up in like 4 hours. It's fine. I run on little sleep anyway. Right now we're doing an insanely small print. One is 2 millimeters tall and one is 5 millimeters tall. Right here. $150 on Amazon right now. Add an Anycubic wash and cure station. That's another $100. So that's 250 right there. Add a bottle of resin, and literally any bottle of resin will do. And that's another, $30 onto that. So when it's all said and done, you're probably spending about $350 and you're into resin printing. But yeah, if you look in the description, I have a link to this. Hold on, let me let me get you the actual thing for this. Why is it not letting me copy that? There we go. There you go. There's my affiliate link for that. So it's $179 from Kingroon itself, plus a $30 coupon right now. So that's actually less than $150. Now, obviously, you add taxes and everything on it, but there you go. That's a hell of a cheap printer. You got 180 millimeter Z-axis height. You got what is it? 120. Let's see exactly what it was for the build volume on this. 110 by 65. Wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm reading that wrong. My bad. Hold on. Where is it? I can't find it now. I don't know what I did with it, but basically it's 3.2 inches by 5 inches by 2 inches. I think I don't know if it printed. We'll find out here in a second. Oh, it totally did print them. They don't look the prettiest, which I kind of figured because they're in the base layer. So, but they printed, which means it can happen. Now, if I did supports on them, they would have came out pretty good. But they are definitely a little warped. There you go. There they are. So just for reference, this is my finger. Okay? That's my finger. Let's see what we can compare with even better. I wish I had a micro SD card, dang it. Well, maybe I do. Aha, I do. Yeah, if I put them on support, they would come out good. But I don't even know if the detail came out on them. Okay, but here they are again. Here's a micro SD card. So they're even smaller than a micro SD card. But yeah. That's how insane you can get. I can print something at 2 millimeters. 2 millimeters. What FDM printer do you know can print 2 millimeters? Not one. What FDM printer do you know can print 5 millimeters? None. At least print it good. Like I said, I kind of figured that those were going to be disaster because, like I said, they're in the base zone. If I would have supported them, they would have came out perfect. But that was just to show you really quick. I did that print in what, 10 minutes? So imagine if you needed something that small. I could have thrown 40 of them on that build plate, if not more, and it still would have taken the same amount of time. What FDM printer can do that? None. Every single thing that you add on to an FDM build plate is going to add on time. Like I said, I can print 2 sets of these prints. Wow, that's super whitewashed. I can do 2 sets of prints of these on this build plate. Okay? That would probably take a couple hours on an FDM printer just to print one of those. Okay? And just to try and print it good. These will print them astoundingly in half the time, if not a quarter of the time. So again, my opinion, resin printing is far superior in a lot of ways. And you can't even argue the material aspect of it anymore, because if you spend the money, you can get the same type of materials. Like, I have an elastic material. That's literally the same thing as the TPU that's sitting right up above me. I can print the exact same thing in a quarter of the time that my FDM printer can do and still have the same elasticity, if not more. And I don't have to do anything with like making sure that my speeds are slow, my retraction set up, nothing like that. Nothing. Now, another downside of resin, it costs about twice as much, but it's also twice as fast. So where does your budgeting lie that you want to be in that maker category? Are you okay having multiple printers print your prints out at X amount of time? Or do you want, I can probably have, like, I can have 3 of these printers printing out the same stuff that a small FDM printer would need like 6 or 7. You choose. And I can do it in half the time. But again, I'm also doubling my product. And if you're someone who does painting, you're already a step ahead. Like I said, you don't have to worry about filling layer lines or anything like that. Nothing like that. Everything's already go. You let it roll. That's it. You don't have to do anything. You just start spraying down. Call it a day. Now, I do have an airbrush kit, so I will be getting into painting. So your question about painting, I'm not really too familiar with that. You'd have to ask around, but I'm sure it's even easier to paint resin prints. So, people, hit the like button, please. Support Matt. Yes, please do. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Every little bit helps. Great mic sounds good. I'm glad I got a lavalier mic, so it's working pretty good. So once I get my printer working correctly, that little M4 I showed you, I can print like 10 of them on one plate. Yes, you can. And no matter, so like I said, the build, the resin printing, it goes by Z height. So this print, so let's say I printed these prints, these 3 prints on my build plate, right? So I have one, let's call this 15 millimeters. Let's call this 5 millimeters and this 6 millimeters. It's only going to base it off of this print. So I can have 6 of these and just 1 of these, and it's only going to take as long as this print because it's based off of the Z height. Whereas FDM, if I had 4 of these prints, it would be like, okay, this one's 30 minutes. This one's another 30 minutes. This one's another 30 minutes. This one's another 30 minutes. That's not how resin printing goes. It's 30 minutes for all four, period. That's it. But again, you're also paying double the price for resin, because this bottle of resin will probably get you half of what a roll of filament can get you. Now that will vary from print to print, obviously, because like I said, you can save yourself a lot of resin by hollowing out your prints if you're okay with that. I personally don't usually do too much hollowing because there's a lot of things that can go wrong with it. And I don't have the right stuff to cure inside of resin prints. So until that time, I'm just going to hands off for right now. So I usually just do solid prints. But yeah, that's about the only like major downside of resin printing, in my opinion, is the fact that you're paying double the price. But again, where are you going to lie in that? Are you going to go on the cheaper side, have more issues with a printer, because the FDM will give you more issues? If something goes wrong, it can be a whole slew of things for one little issue. I got a clogged print. Well, it can be 10 different things. This thing, if you have an issue, if you have an error, 9 times out of 10, it's user error. There is that 1% that has an issue with the actual machine. And it does happen. It's very, very rare, but it does happen that there's a machine issue. But 9 times out of 10, even with a machine issue, if it's not something that happened right away, most of the time it's the user error that caused that machine issue. And you know right away if it's going to be an issue. Like, there's only a couple things that make a resin printer work. The Z, the build plate, the VAT with the FEP, and the LCD screen, and the LED. That's it. I can even throw in a USB drive, but again, it's rare that they fail. I just automatically replace them on any machine. That's just standard for me. Whether I'm FDM or resin printing, I replace all of my memory with that. So yeah, that's basically where it's at. Like, super, super simple and straightforward for resin printing, in my opinion. But again, do I want to spend a little bit more money and have faster prints and the ability to print literally anything I want? Or do I want to take the time and have something that, might be more structurally solid on a cheaper end? Because comparing a standard resin to PLA, there's no comparison. Like, I can basically drop standard resin, and the possibility of it shattering into a million pieces is very, very likely. Whereas if I drop standard PLA FDM, the chances of it shattering are very, very slim. Might chip a piece, but shattering, no. But so give and take. ABS resin is maybe just a little bit more, maybe a couple dollars more. So again, you got to choose what you want. And then you could also add some flexible material. You could even go and get model resin, which again, that's a little bit more expensive. I want to say that's like $30 a bottle for 500. And that will guarantee that you will never have a break print because it's flexible. It has enough flex in it to where you can literally throw it at the ground and it will probably not break. So, and resin printing looks better in details. Yes, that is my main thing for switching from FDM to resin. I used to run a print farm of about 25 FDM printers, and I swapped them all out almost 3 years ago this November. I swapped them all out for resin printers because this is done right off the build plate. Like, all I did was just wash it off and cure it. And the detail, I can literally see the pits in the back of the guy's head. Like, that's how insane it is. Like, resin printing is unmatchable in terms of detail. Unmatchable. I don't care how good you got an FDM printer dialed in. I guarantee I can print consistently the same thing over and over and over and over and over again And I guarantee that you cannot do the same with an FDM printer. Guarantee it. Unless you have $1,000 FDM printer. And even then, I can still guarantee that. Okay? Doesn't matter. FDM versus resin, you're going to have less of a problem with resin than you are FDM all around in every aspect. Like I said, the only drawback is more expensive. So I'll be honest, I'd rather take the loss than the hassle. Just my 2 cents. But that might just be me. Other people might like that. Now, if you want to throw in another downside, resin printers, this is $150. Comparing it to an FDM printer that's at $150, the build volume is much bigger. So that's the other thing you got to weigh on. You know, like I have a $370 resin printer. Like, okay, take for example, this is a $2,000 resin printer. The build volume on this is 330 by 185 by 400. That's a CR10 max can basically be better than this in terms of print volume. But I guarantee I can print a helmet in half the time and have it far better. So really you gotta figure that one out too. So yeah, it is more messy, but I mean, if you know what you're doing, it's not messy. Nice silicone mat, you're good. Some gloves, okay. Maybe some eye protection. If you're, not a dummy like me, then okay, that's it. But it's not much more of a mess. Think about it. How much do you got to clean up filaments? Debris from filament, supports, brims, rafts, other, clippings from FDM. How much do you got to clean up from that? It's kind of the same. It's just the fact that you can touch the filament with your bare hands. That's the only difference. So the cost of gloves. Really? I mean, that kind of factors in with the double price, in my opinion. So, can you compare it to a Mars Pro 2? This is literally the same machine. This is actually comparable to a Mars 3. The only difference is the Mars 3 has a little bit higher resolution screen. This is built off of the Mars 3 platform, which is based off of the Kelent C60 machine. Okay? They're all the same machine. Kelent makes all the parts and the machines for Elegoo. Elegoo does their final touches on it. That's it. It's just like, how can I put this? So everybody knows Costco, right? Well, at least here in the States, people know Costco. Costco rebrands a lot of stuff that is like the main stuff. Kirkland is their go-to brand, right? Kirkland, let's say they have a shampoo that is, $15 a bottle. It's literally the same exact shampoo as like the Dove that is double the price because you're paying for a brand name. And their bottle might be a little bit different looking. That's it. You're basically paying for a little bit nicer bottle, but the ingredients are identical. Same thing here. The Kelent C60 and the Kingroon KP6 are the same exact printers as the Elegoo Mars 3. The Elegoo just take it and up the game a little bit. They're the Dove of the printing world. It's the same thing. So, gloves are out of control. Yes, I do agree. So resolution is going to vary on detail. So these prints came off of a 4K resolution printer. These prints came off of a 2K resin printer. If you can show me the major detail between them, I'll give you one of these small machines for free. If you can show me, prove to me that there is a major difference between a 4K and a 2K resolution screen, I will give you a small machine for absolutely free. I will pick up everything. I will ship it to you for absolutely free. Now, when I say that, you have to make sure that the resin exposure setting is dialed in, and that's it. Your supports are good. Everything's good. That's it. Do a 1 versus 1. Resin dialed in, same type of resin, same everything. If you can show me the details between a 4K and a 2K, I will give you one of these small machines. I know that it's not there. The reason why I know, that printer right there, it's called the Longer Orange 4K. The printer next to it is a Sonic Mini 4K. The Longer prints at 31 microns. That's the detail. The Mini 4K prints at 35 microns. This prints at probably 51 micron, I think it was. I'll be honest. The naked eye, you cannot see the difference. Now, if I put on my macro lens and everything, I can probably show you the difference. But that's it. To the naked eye, there's no way you're going to tell the difference between that. I guarantee it. So selling point. Yeah, it's basically just like TVs, okay? The selling point was, oh my God. Okay, so let me take this back a little bit. Okay, going from a old RGB screen to a 2K, you're going to notice a difference between that because it's like, I think it's like 80 microns down to 50 microns. That's a huge difference. Okay. Or like, actually, it would be more comparable going from like an old RGB screen to a 4K. That difference you will notice. Okay. You can definitely notice that. The same thing for like television. You went from 1080p, okay, which was the HD thing at the time, to 4K. Huge difference, okay? It's a marketing thing when it goes from 4K to 6K to 8K. There's really not much of a difference. The difference is the type of material that's used for those TVs. So like you may say again, oh, well, the difference between 4K and 8K is so vast. Well, yeah, but then you also have other factors in there. It's not just the difference between that resolution. It's the fact that one of them is LCD, one of them's OLED, and one of them's LED. So those are three different type of models that you are comparing them to. OLED is going to be super crisp because of the way that it's designed. But if I showed you a 2K OLED or a 4K OLED or an 8K OLED, you wouldn't notice the difference. You can try and tell me till you're blue in the face, oh, well, I noticed the difference. There's not. There's not going to be a huge difference in that. Okay? They're all the same type of materials. It's just how it is. It's marketing 101. And this is exactly how it is. That's why 2K is good enough. I've talked to several resin printing companies. Why isn't the industry, the industrial printers, getting into 4K resolution? Because there's no need. Most of those companies, they're not even at 2K. They're at 1080 because it works. If I pulled up my old RGB screen and I printed something, I can print it just as good as anybody's brand new machine. Anybody's. Again, it goes to different type of screens. You're going RGB screen versus a monochrome screen. Two different types of screens. But I guarantee that it'll probably output similar stuff. This is the same thing where the DLP technology that's coming out. And people are like up in arms about it. Like, I understand where you're coming from. But really the only selling point is the long life expectancy of DLP. But here's the downside of it. The print times are double, if not triple. So I have this printer where we were printing at 2 seconds a layer, right? Let's say they made a DLP version of this, which is what the new rage is right now. It's going to take 16 seconds to cure that layer properly on a DLP projector, but it's going to do it at a higher quality. So, much like the difference between resin printing and FDM printing, you have a trade-off there. Yeah, you get much higher quality and resolution because of the way that it's projected, but you also have the downside of it takes a lot longer. And what's funny, that's something that nobody's talking about. And I can't wait for it to happen on the market where somebody gets a hold of that DLP printer and then they realize, oh, well, it takes 3 times as long to print that print. Well, okay. Let me put my layer height at 0.01. Yeah, that's how ridiculously detailed. I'm printing at 0.05. Like, that's just normal detail. That's what these details are. That's what all these are at. They're not at 0.003. They're not even at 0.01, which most of these printers can do. But I'll also triple my print time on that. But I will get the same resolution. So it's a whole marketing strategy. And they're marketing it very, very, very well because people are just eating it up and they're not gathering all the information that they need to. And it's unfortunate, but that's how literally everything works. Okay? Take, for example, Chevy or GM in general. Okay? GM used to have a company called Saturn. So what GM likes to do is they like to rebrand their cars and make it a new model. But basically, they just slap a new name on it and call it a new model. Take, for example, the Saturn View, the last Saturn View. Now, at the time, Saturn had been gone for 2 or 3 years. All they did was took their last model, the Saturn View, and remarketed it as the Chevy. What was it called? Equinox. The Chevy Equinox. 2 or 3 years later. It's literally the same exact car. But they marketed it as a brand new thing. And all they did was just throw in some new technology, and that's it as a selling point. Obviously, they changed the bumpers around a little bit, but for the most part, the entire car was exactly the same. Just changed some bumpers. Maybe even some badges. I don't even know if they changed bumpers. But that's all they did. And that's just marketing 101. That's smart marketing. Because you're not having to retool anything. You're not having to change anything. Everything stays the same. You just change a few things here and there that you can, and then you market it as new. That's marketing 101. That's how it is everywhere. Quantity versus speed. For me, quality versus speed. For me, quality wins, but that's to a point. The reality is that there has to be a real benefit. Agree. Like tripling the print time for a quality difference on paper, but not in real life, is just not worth it. Agreed. So I used to say that there was a place for FDM printing and there's a place for resin printing. But as I've gotten more and more into resin printing, there's no need, besides build volume-wise, to have FDM printers anymore. Resin printers do things a lot better right off the build plate. But like I said, the one downside of that is that they don't have the same build volume. So that's one of the big things. So Okay, there you go. I mean, you can do bases on a resin print. Just angle it. Just angle it up and down. So like this printed just like this with supports right on the side, just like that. That's how it printed, with supports like that. And this is technically a coin, but you can say it as a base. I can do a base right up and down, and there you go. Now, granted, I'm limited by the build volume here, but if I angle it properly, I can probably get it on there. I can do most anything that a CR10 can do. I can do pretty much on that printer at a much higher quality and less problems. The base for my Hulkbuster is 800 millimeters wide. Jeez, that's insane. So I can do that in two parts on the Mega. A lot of bases lack detail and they are large. Doing them in resin is just not needed. Yeah, and it's probably not cost effective either. So I can understand that. Where's resin printing going to be in 5 to 10 years? At the rate that it's going, excuse me, I should probably have something to drink because I've been talking your guys' ears off. Yeah, resin printing is probably going to continue to grow, and resolution is going to get higher and higher as basically as phones get better, printers are going to get better because they utilize very similar logistics in terms of their screens. DLP is starting to hit the market, which is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. Because you're going to see a lot of problems with that because people are going to basically have cheap units that are not going to work very well or not going to hold up well. So while, you know, a DLP printer can last 20,000 hours, that's great. But the downside is, you know, you might have a unit that breaks all the time. So, you know, again, give or take what you want. But you're going to start seeing a lot more bigger printers out there on the market. Definitely in the very, very near future. Much higher detail. But again, costs are going to go way up high because all that technology and that size is going to be very, very costly. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a good direction. But that's what I see. Like these small printers are basically going to be faded out within the next 5 to 10 years, probably within the next 2. The reason being is there's not really much of a need for them because for double the price, you can get double the build volume. And the great thing about it is there's no change to how a print goes. Pretty much they're all going to print exactly the same. As long as you do the proper setup and settings for it, a resin printer is going to work the same throughout the entire thing. The resin printers. So, a resin printer is expensive to repair. If so, what would you say is the most expensive part? And how likely is it to fail? 2 things that fail all the time, and it's caused by user error 90% of the time. I'd say probably even 95% of the time. LCD screens and FET film. Those are the 2 costly things. Now, for a printer like this, an LCD screen is maybe $40, give or take. A FET film, maybe $20 for a 5-pack. Okay? But you should only need to replace like an LCD screen once, if not twice, in the lifetime of the printer. If you replace them more, you're doing something wrong. Like you're destroying your printer. There shouldn't need to be anything like that. I've had probably 30 resin printers now in the last almost 3 years of resin printing. And I've replaced 2 screens in my entire lifetime. One of them was because the screen was bust from the get-go. It was an Amazon return. They sent it to me, and the screen was busted. The second one, absolutely my fault, 100%. I damaged the screen. I pierced the FEP. I destroyed the screen. Just obliterated it. Put a gouge right in it. Yeah. So that was absolutely my fault. Now, it also depends on what printer you have. Because, like I said, these might be $40 screens. To replace a screen on that big thing, $400. That's expensive. So be careful with what you're doing. I've replaced the photon screen 5 times, and the touch screen is broken now. Ah, well, you broke it. Yeah, I'm going to chalk that up to user error. But in your defense, you're more of an FDM guy. And yeah, I just learned quickly that, there's a lot of ways that you can destroy a resin printer real quickly. And that's why I'm here to help people out. So if anybody watching needs help with resin printing, shoot me a message. I'm fine with that. I have no problem. So I'm always around for help. So 100% was me every time. See, and that's what I always tell people. That's one of the other great things that I love about resin printing versus FDM. FDM, like I said, if you forget to level your bed and it's too close, and you hear your extruder clicking, it goes click, click, click like that. You can let the print go and it'll print, but it'll cause a clog, and that clog can in turn destroy your hot end, destroy your nozzle, destroy your bed, destroy your print. It can do a slew of things. Okay, and it may be indirectly your fault that caused all that issue, but the printer just basically systematically destroyed itself. With a resin printer, if you have a failure in any way, shape, or form, 98% of the time, it's your fault. It is. That's what I love about this, because it teaches you to learn from your mistake. If I have a failed print, there's one of 2 reasons. Well, technically, probably 3. One is going to be improper exposure time. 2 is going to be support structure, that I use light, medium, or heavy duty. How do I do that? And print orientation. Now, print orientation can kind of be coincided with support structure because, well, those 2 go hand in hand. Those are my 3 things for anybody getting into resin printing. Do your exposure settings first. Do your print orientation next. Then do your support structure after that. If you get those 3 things right, you're good. Now, I will say the hardest parts about resin printing is support structure, because it's going to vary from print to print. I can get away with a light support structure on this, but this, if this is solid, and it is, and I wanted to print this like this on the build plate, I might need medium supports because it's a heavier material. So I may need something to grab it. Or I might do a mixture of heavy and medium supports, or heavy and light supports, to minimize the scarring effect. So really, it's more user error on this side of printing than FDM is. So do you ever think metal laser printers will ever be a hobbyist affordable? So Anycubic is very, very, very hard trying to get it to be to the hobbyist level. And they do have a hobbyist level printer. They basically took a, what is it, like an Anycubic 4 Max, I think it is, their enclosed printer. And they basically turned it into an SLS printer, SLM, it might be SLM. But they basically turned it into a metal printer, and it works. But it's not like you can just take it off the printer and call it a day. No, you need to take it off the printer and like forge it into a 400-degree oven for X amount of time, let it sit out, scrape all the stuff off of it, then go and, basically cure it again in a kiln, and then it's ready to go. So it's not to that extent yet, but the closest to that would be Form Labs. Form Labs technically has I guess it's kind of a hobbyist, but it's still more of an industrial side setup, which I saw at TCT. What was that? About a month ago now. And no, it wasn't even a month ago. It was like 2 weeks ago. And they had their SLM set up, and it was awesome looking. And the cool thing about SLM is you pretty much don't need any supports for most of the materials. Like, it comes from a sand, and it forms it. And it's amazing how it works. And it's mind-boggling how it works. But technically, there is a hobbyist solution for that. But when I say hobbyist, you kind of need to have deep pockets hobbyist. Like, I'm going to spend 25 grand on a printer, and then I'm going to spend 15 grand on the cleanup station that they suggest you include in it. So is it hobbyist? Yeah, but not like you or I hobbyist where, it's $200 hobbyist. I don't think it'll ever get to that point. Maybe a couple $1,000 hobbyist, but yeah, it's still got a long, long way to go. And I have a feeling it's going to stay in that long, long time period until some new technology comes out. But as of right now, it's not within grasp of the cheap hobbyist level. So I think metal will come down, but I don't think it will ever really be domestic level personal. Agreed. Should we ever use screen protectors for LCD screens? Absolutely, you can use them. I actually always suggest a company. It goes by the name of Mach 5, and that's the number 5. So it's MACH 5, but it also has FIVE. You can look them up. They have like nice surrounds and everything, and they have various protectors for the screens and everything. So I always suggest using that. I personally don't use them all that much. I used to like the tape surrounds that they did just to make it look more aesthetically pleasing on the printers, but I've never used an actual screen protector on it. So, but you can do that, but just keep in mind, normally when you add a layer of something onto the screen, you got to think you're projecting through that as well now. So even though it's pure like glass, basically, you're projecting through that. So you have to mess with your exposure times when you add a screen protector. So take, for example, this print went off at 2 seconds. If I add a screen protector, I might have to do 2.3 seconds in order to be okay. So just take that in mind, that you will probably have to adjust your exposure settings per the layer. So, but yeah. Well, anyways, guys, I'm going to let you go. I was supposed to be off about an hour ago, but hey, that happens. Actually, 2 hours ago. I probably should have been off. So yeah, I thank you guys for watching and stopping in and chatting in the stream. If you guys like this printer, go ahead and check it out. I do have a link down in the description of where you can purchase this printer. Again, it's $179.99 with a $30 coupon on Amazon right now. I really think that's a good buy for what you get for this printer. If you're looking to get into resin printing, this is a really, really good buy, because it is just a little bit better than the Voxelab Proxima, which I basically touted as the best starter resin printer. But I think this is going to be the new best starter printer for the best bang for your buck, in my opinion. Sorry, James. I know you just got yours yesterday, but Yeah, just because of the build leveling system on here is far superior. It does have a 25 millimeter extra Z axis, so it is 25 millimeters taller. So that is also nice that you can print higher. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and leave them down below, and I will try and answer them as best as I can. Oh, excuse me. Let's see. We got one more question before we leave. What is your average shelf life of your resins? So I have resins up here that are just about a year old now, and they'll still print. You just got to make sure you shake them up a little bit more. So I don't usually fill full vats. I'll just fill enough to do my prints, and then I'll add as I go. Because if I leave it out, I have to dump it back in, reshake it up. So you want to, if you have prints, if you have resins that are a year or older, you want to try and just use them up as fast as you can, because shelf life for resin is usually a year. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, thank you guys for all stopping in. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, check it out. YouTube.com/Akuma Mods. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you all for stopping in. Until next time, happy printing.